Welcome back, everybody. It is Wins Above Fantasy, episode 198. I'm Van Burnett, joined as always by Steve Gesuele. Wow, Steve, 2 episodes from 200 in the kind of sleepy off season here. Late November, kind of a Thanksgiving show, and we're talking about some year-over-year Statcast changes, which I guess you could squint and say we're thankful for improvements and not so much with the downside. Bit of a reach, just improvising here and the getting the cobwebs out, really, Steve. But yeah, we got a great show tonight. We are going to be referencing an awesome series of articles by Mike Podhorzer on Fangraphs, who has done some really entertaining articles, just kind of in the spirit of accountability in his own right, of looking at stuff early in the season and coming back to it at the end of the season. And that was kind of a jump off point for us to look at year over year changes, some risers and fallers. And so we'll kind of bounce around a little bit there. But Steve, how's it going, man? Happy off season. You can kind of catch our breath, keep it a little loose, and get ready for the exciting formulation of ideas that we'll take into spring with us. But how you doing?
Good. Yeah, crazy. Coming up on 200. I think that'll be right around like our Christmas episode, which is interesting. And your little intro there, that reminded me. I think last year our episode did drop on Thanksgiving, so we did like why we're thankful for fantasy baseball. That got some good reviews.
Yeah, people were into
I
it.
don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
different
we'll
kind of
have
thing.
to see if we could squeeze in one next week or something.
Or we
To
save it for
kickstart it.
200 and do the Christmas one,
Yeah, yeah,
do
yeah,
the
yeah,
gift
yeah,
that keeps on giving, fantasy
yeah.
baseball.
All right, all right. We're workshopping there somehow. The sausage is made. I like it. Um, yeah. This is a fun topic. Something we normally do in season, right? Like, and it's usually spurred by those Mike Podhorzer articles that come out early in season when Statcast data and some key metrics start to stabilize and things like that. But yeah, not to bury the lead. Mike does an amazing series over at Fangraphs, and I grew up reading Fangraphs and grew up reading Mike, and it's definitely shaped me and this show and sort of this accountability and coming back to articles that you wrote. Mike always does such a good job with that, of reviewing. Hey, here are these changes that I identified early in the season. Like, did it actually mean anything? Did the fact that player X gained 2 miles an hour on his max EV in April, did he have more power? Was that actual true, or was it just noise? So Mike does a great job in that. And that's honestly probably what, subconsciously influenced some of my input on having on this show, and making sure that we always come back to things that we talk about in our takes and our calls, and always reviewing ourselves and trying to get better that way. So shout out to Mike Podhorzer there. Check out all those articles. He also does the Mining the News series on Rotographs, which is I've mentioned that a million times on this show before. It's just such an invaluable resource of Mike just basically digging through every team's beat reporter and every single possible news
Oh
outlet,
yeah, that's
and
right.
posting any relevant piece of news fantasy wise. So he does amazing work. Shout out to Mike. We'll link all of those articles that we reference here for the show, and it's a great jumping off point. Yeah, like this is something that we normally do in season and we don't really come back to, and we sort of try to use it to find a leg up on certain guys, and okay, these guys could be potential interesting ads, and what we hope for is, like, the league winning April ads, right? That's the goal of what we do in there. So to look at it through a year end lens, and maybe apply it for next season, I think is a cool twist on something that we've done in a different way before.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that we'll look more at the players throughout this show, but a fun thing Mike does with the articles is kind of charts the ones that are more like end of April, early May. So like in that ballpark, to basically say where the early signs sticky throughout the whole season, and how did that impact kind of the back of the baseball card stuff, which I found, Steve, that on the pitching side was kind of most interesting from like looking through all of those, that some of the stuff that we point to, and we'll get into the year over year risers for things like Stuff Plus or fastball velocity, things like that, that kind of, it's almost second nature to us after doing this for, 5 years on the pod, but even longer just as managers, that in the spring or in May, April, you're checking to see whose velo is up, and you kind of just assume those are the right lottery tickets to buy. But to go back and look at, what was the impact of them, and it kind of is a spoiler alert, but something that was interesting is it seemed like whether it was Stuff Plus or velocity gainers, it's almost like it's easier to find the good stories, to predict the good. Some of the ones where the arrow was pointing down on, like, okay, they've lost velocity or their Stuff Plus isn't as high. Those things held throughout the season, but it didn't always impact the back of the baseball card, strikeout percentage. So I don't know what to make of that necessarily. Like, are those just kind of wily veteran pitchers that are finding a way to get it done and without having all the velocity? But people who do add velocity, you can kind of sign up for, like, oh man, they're going to take a step forward most of the time, unless it's a head scratcher like Jack Leiter or something like that. So anyway, check those out. But what we are starting with is, I guess, looking at hitters, Steve, because hitters, the table on Fangraphs has the year-to-year changes, and we got Max.
Yep, I wanted to hit on that too. I know we've mentioned that before, but it's a extremely underutilized tool. So yeah, I'm glad you're plugging that.
Yeah, and we can link that out as well. But all of the wonderful things about Fangraphs with how many sorting options they have on their spreadsheets, they have the year-to-year changes, which again is great to just see. What do you want to look at? Strikeout percentage, xWOBA, like WRC plus, batted ball stuff. So we kind of just picked out a few here, but I think the max exit velocity is one that Mike profiled as well. So looking at that list, I guess, Steve, talk to me about the stat itself, because it's an indicator of raw power, and sometimes a little bit more telling than some of the average numbers, which is interesting because it's such a small sample size. But the names are interesting as well, so we can sort by that and just kind of freestyle on some of the guys that jump out to us when we look at year over year max EV gainers.
Yeah, I think max exit velocity sometimes gets glossed over because max exit velocity, when you look at the stat, it's a sample size of one, right? Like if a guy hits a ball 150 miles an hour, that's it. Whereas if you want to tell a guy's true game power, right, it's better to look at like 90th percentile exit velocity or 95th percentile exit velocity, like where you expand the sample and say, okay, when the guy hits the ball hard, what is the outcome, and how hard does he hit it often, right? Whereas max exit velocity is one sample and can be an outlier or misread or something like that, right? In some cases, I'm not saying that they're littered with errors, but there's times where things are corrected and whatnot. But I digress. But I still think it's interesting because I think it's a good indication of raw power. This is something that Saris over the Athletic talks about all the time, and as someone that listens and reads basically everything he puts out, that's how I view it as well. It is a snapshot of a guy's power ceiling, right? And if they're, especially in the lens that we're looking at it, where there's a change between years, that tells me that a guy has a new power ceiling. That doesn't mean that there's a new level, that a guy who is a 5 homer hitter is now a 20 homer hitter because he hit a ball 5 mile an hour more than he did in the past. But there's something that changed that could indicate that there could be more power that's coming. So when you look at it through this lens, I think it's very interesting. And a few of the guys here that did have improvements, especially early on, like Mike highlighted, you should pay attention, essentially. I think this is a really good list, and there are some really interesting names that I wanted to hit on and discuss. That we sort of introed the stat there.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, the if we want to go by the names that you've called out, Steve, you've got Corbin Carroll on here, Trevor Story, Brandon Lau, I'm a
Brandon
little
Lau.
rusty. Brandon Lau
Yeah.
and Jason Dominguez. So talk to me about these names, because there are some other ones that are at the very top of the board that we've been talking about all year, like a Pete Crow Armstrong. But like, you pulled these ones. Give me your initial thought. I mean, Carroll has been an interesting power case study throughout his young career in general. So maybe let's start with Corbin Carroll on his big bounce back.
Yeah, so he increased his max exit velocity by 5 mile an hour year over year, and for him and for Story and for Lau, that tells me that they're healthy, right? And in hindsight, like all three of them were healthy and had amazing to really good years, right? Um, maybe Trevor Story was just good rather than really good, but Carroll was, cemented himself as a top 10, maybe top 8 fantasy asset, right?
Yep.
Trevor
30
Story had a
30.
25-31 season. Yeah, he was great. Especially at his cost. And Brandon Lau had a vintage Brandon Lau season, right? So that's another thing that I should have hit on. Like, it's an indication of health, which is why it's important, right? Like, if a guy like Carroll, like I'll pull up his year over year
So
max exit velocity here, but
yeah, check
I'm
that
sure
out.
there's a trend. Yeah.
In the meantime, what's interesting, like you said, is max EV. That's on a sample size of 1. But if you go to year changes on barrel percentage across the entire league, Corbin Carroll is the number 1 biggest riser.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it just shows that, it's raw power. It's a sign of health. It's a sign of a possible step forward. And there are cautionary tales every now and then, like a Tommy Edman who started with like a blistering April. But for the most part, I think,
Dude,
I don't have mics in front of me, but it's
I
like a 4
remember
out of
that
5.
ball that Tommy had been hit and being like, whoa, like what is going on?
It's a new player, right? But more
Yeah,
times
yeah,
than not, it will lead to,
yeah.
a sample size of the entire season, not just, punishing one baseball. It doesn't work like that. So
Yeah. So Carroll's year over year max EV, his first season, that like cup of coffee he had for the month of September he was called up, was 107. Then 2023, when he was amazing, 114 miles an hour is max exit velocity. Then last year, when he was battling the shoulder injuries and all that, it was down to 112, 111.5. And then this year, the 115.8. So an increase of 4 year over
easily
year.
a career
Yeah.
high.
So
Yeah.
yeah, like that was an indication that there's another level to Corbin Carroll's power that's coming, and it did. He had 31 homers this year.
Well, and the other thing is he played, 15 games less than he played last year and hit 9 more homers.
Yeah.
So when we talk about like another level, I think it starts to beg the question, Steve. Like, you're kind of playing the game of like, oh, if you pair his 2023 average with his, and speed with his power this year. But like, I mean, you're definitely in on Carroll. I know
Yeah.
you've mentioned it,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, it's an interesting one on, is it top 8? Is it top 6? Is he a 35-40 candidate that could put together a 270 plus average? So I actually want to just zip over to because some of the earliest projections are out. Let's see if they're buying it. Yeah, so they've got, I mean, Steamer's got 137, so they don't have his game volume up that
Fair
high,
enough.
and 27 homers. But then Fangraphs has 154 games, 29 homers. So I think I'm taking the over on that if you can give me 154. But yeah, Carroll's a great name in there.
I didn't want to do this, but I'm pulling up the early ADP. But give me a second here.
Oh yeah.
Just want to make sure that we're looking at just November. There we go. We can get a proper ADP. Yeah, he's 7 overall.
Okay, so who's in
6.
front of
So it's
6?
Judge. It's Otani, Judge, Witt, Soto, Ramirez, Skubal, and Carroll. So I was going to say 6th among hitters. Skubal just going right before him. But yeah, He is the sixth hitter off the board, 7th overall. That's
And then who
kind of
comes
right
right?
where
Who
I would
comes?
take him. I think.
Yeah, who comes right after him?
Ellie, J-Rod, Acuna.
Okay, yeah, I think that's about right. The Ellie Carroll is interesting. I think J Ram is just so tough to nudge out of there, dude. He's like
yeah. I think I would still take J-Ram, but Carroll's
insanely consistent.
close for me there.
Some of the other names, notable names on year-to-year max EV risers, Josh Naylor, number 1, which is pretty interesting, Steve, because he had kind of didn't he trade back power? Yeah, so he went from this year was kind of his story of adding a ton of average back and the ridiculous 30 steals, but his homer total went from 31 down to 20. So that's
Yeah, I
kind
wonder
of
how much the
interesting.
ballpark had to do with that, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at, I'm pulling up
Because
like
his fly ball rate
the
stayed the same.
homers by
His like
park. Yeah, so 23 homers if all of his games were played in Seattle. If all of his games were played in Cleveland, oh wow, that's interesting. Also 23, but like Tampa, New York, 29, 27, 27 in Cincy. So,
he just signed the big new contract. I mean,
yeah,
honestly, I think that so if you got ADP pulled up, where's Naylor going?
Naylor is going the 71st. Right behind
Mm.
Austin Riley, right before Hunter Goodman and Ben Rice.
Okay. Well, if I mean the crazy thing is his max exit velocity not only was the biggest increase, it was 99th percentile. So it's not like he went from like okay to good or anything.
Yeah,
I
he went
mean,
from okay to elite. Yeah.
yeah. So that's an interesting one there. Pete Crow Armstrong was second. Corbin Carroll was fifth that we talked about. Just kind of scanning. I mean, Jaron Duran was 11th on the list. We'll talk about some of these other names, so I'll kind of hold off. Vlad is in the top 20 there, so that's encouraging signs. I know one that Mike mentioned in his article. If I'm not sure if it was this or another one, but Vinny P, and he is one that just jumps out to me as like I don't know if it's like the new Castellanos in terms of like how many years in a row are we just looking at Castellanos as like Statcast metrics and we're like he's got to turn a corner, he's got to turn a corner. I guess Vinny P had 32.
Yeah.
So
I would
that's
say he
good.
did turn. I'd say he did turn a corner this year. Like,
What's weird is it happened with like his barrel rate is like sub 11%. But yeah, you're right. I mean, hitting 32 homers, it's like who cares? He's just pulling the ball like crazy.
it was kind of the opposite, right? Like he almost overperformed his batted ball quality after years of saying, "Hey, this is going to come. This is going to come." Right.
But yeah, I guess it's a really good proof point
I also
that
think
the
this is
max EV.
this has got to be the first time that he played this many games, right? Like, the first time he
Yeah.
had over
Oh yeah.
600 appearances. So,
Yeah, he played
you would think that
160.
evened out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. So yeah, Vinny P is when you look at the whole thing, I mean, a sub 800 OPS, but 32 homers. It's just odd for a
Yeah.
guy that you kind of
Does he not
bank
walk
on
that
for.
much? Is that
He
no?
usually does.
Yeah,
They went
yeah,
down a little bit.
yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
It's Vinny
Pasquantino
P
is.
or Josh Naylor. They're basically back to back
I'm
on first
taking
day of the
Naylor, man.
All-Star
What about
break.
you? I like Naylor.
ADP agrees with you.
Okay.
I think I would go Pasquantino, honestly.
Wow. Okay.
Um, I like some of the batted ball metrics a little bit better.
Okay. What about my 30 steals I'm getting from Josh Naylor?
That
You're not buying that?
yeah. That's I don't know.
He only got caught twice, dude. It's just
Yeah, and
nuts
like,
for a
he did have
235 pound guy.
10 and 6, like, but it seems like such an outlier to me. I guess I'm just selling the Mariner. Like I'm so down on the Mariners on everything. Maybe I'm just wrong there. But dude, is he gonna
Yeah.
like, I would bet on it being a low double digits rather than closer to 30.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
point.
Okay. Well, let's shift over to our second category, which is bat speed. And still kind of new to the, to the arsenal of things that we look at. But bat speed was, because of that, it was one that I was kind of reading the article closely from Mike. And this was one that it seemed like was pretty indicative that higher bat speed. And the reason I say that, Steve, is if you remember when we, along with the rest of the world, were breaking down the kind of the Statcast data around bat speed, is that it's not always about speed. And that's where, like if you look at acceleration that Kyle does on Pitcher List, which is, it's like speed and swing length. And it's like, okay, if you have a good bat speed and a short swing path, that's the best combination type of thing. But most of the guys who were risers on the bat speed ended up basically being a positive fantasy story for the year. So when you look at some of these bat speed guys, let's talk about some of the names that jumped out at you, because they're not exactly your like O'Neill Cruz, Giancarlo Stanton names.
Yeah, and they really wouldn't be, because those guys have elite bat speed and they kind of stayed up there. This is interesting because it's another indication of, hey, maybe there's something added here or a change that is going to result in more game power. And I think for the most part, that's kind of what happened here. Like Bryce Terang being, the second on this list, right? As far as his overall difference in bat speed between 2024 and 2025, it was 66.2 miles an hour in 2024, up to 70.7 for 2025. And when Mike looked at this in mid-May, like there was a 3 mile an hour increase. So like, hey, is there something going on here with Bryce Terang? And what do you know? Like he broke out and was basically a 5 category stud with, did he finish with over 20 homers, right? Or close to it at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, 18. So yeah, like kind of like a Jonathan VR like light, right? Maybe that's coming, a low 20 homer season and a 50 steal season if you compare the two from 2024 and 2025. Though it is hard to steal when you're jogging around the bases and all that. So yeah, that was the name that jumped out to me the most. Like, right, like Bryce Terang was probably not like. I guess he was rostered a lot because of the steals, right? But in daily leagues, right? Like 12, or 12
like on
team
cold
leagues, he was probably
stretches
available for, like especially if he wasn't hitting that many homers in April, which I don't think he did.
Yeah, he was definitely profiled as more of a rabbit than like a 2020 threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Terang's a great one. I mean, we talked about him in recent shows as kind of like on that fantasy value, like all value team for where you got him and what you got out of him. So yeah, I think Terang is a great one. There's some that are a little bit like, Brendan Rodgers is on the list.
Yeah.
But Ben Rice is there, and that's one that we've talked about, and obviously with him, he was like the second catcher that went off in our early mock. So like, yeah, Ben Rice is a great story. Vinny P is also in this, so there you go.
What do you make of Anthony Volpe? I don't know if I'm allowed to comment, being in the tri-state area and just how
I know, man,
maligned Anthony Volpe is.
Well, it's tough to I was just listening.
He comes up on another list
radio
here too, so yeah,
it's so interesting. I was just listening to like Covino and Rich on like Fox Sports Radio. Those guys are great, but they were talking about how like the Jeter tag is just like kind of haunted Volpe, and you look at him and he's like he's still 24 years old, and he just went 19 homers, 18 steals. The 212 average is obviously pitiful. Sure. You can't be a table setter of any sort and have like a sub 300 OBP for 3 straight years. So like, he's not my type, Steve. Like, I'm into the guys that are like low strikeout and high walk rate, and Volpe doesn't give you that. He's just kind of like the flash metrics. But he's 24 years old, and the powers. It was a nice rebound on the power year. It's another one that you say, okay, well, if he 2 years ago he stole 28, and last year he hit 19 homers, like, could he be a 20-30 guy? But it's hard for me to ever get excited about those. Like, what's the batting average? 225, or are you going to get a 240 year? Like, I'll sign up for that as a lottery ticket if it's like at the Tyler Fitzgerald cost from this past year. But what's Volpe's ADP if you still got it up? Is it like one? It's got to be after like 170, right?
He's going 370 325th off the player.
Well, there you go, man. That's way past
372 ADP.
Yeah. So if it's that late, then I mean, like there's a price for every investment, and like that's well within like an MI. Why not? He could put it together and have like a 20-30, 240 season.
And he did have shoulder surgery this offseason. So, and he was hurt pretty early in the season. I think it was May or early June when he injured his shoulder. His defensive metrics fell off a cliff. So, like, to do that and still put together a 1918 season, I know all the other numbers are basically garbage. The counting stats are okay. It was, 65 runs, 72 RBIs.
Expected to be cleared for hitting mid-February.
Yeah. Okay. So, hey, I mean, look at Zach Neto, right? I'm not saying that Volpe is going to be Zach Neto, right? But he missed the first 2 weeks of the season, right, Neto, and he was, one of the best shortstops. And it was a shoulder injury too that did not affect his power. I know every player is affected differently, but as far as power and speed combo, like he's got 52 homers and 70 steals through his first 3 seasons. So close to 20-ish average, right? So that part of the game is there. It was even there this year in what was basically a dreadful season where he hit 212. At the same time, he's never had an OPS above 666 and a WRC plus above 83. So, like, I know a lot of that factors in the fact that he doesn't walk much and does strike out a bit, which, hurts the real life game more than it does for fantasy. I don't know. I've long been an anti-Volpe apologist. I've sort of faded on that over the recent years, but if you squint, there's still stuff to like. And the fact that
for a 24-year-old,
had a career best barrel rate, career best bat speed. Maybe there's another level here. I don't know. That's way too low of a price, especially if like the Yankees don't make a move and he's still their starting shortstop, which indications as of November 19th that is the case.
Yeah, like, what name comes to mind that Volpe would need to like follow this path a little bit is like a Jurickson Profar, where like for 7 years you were looking at it and you're like, are you really like a 230 hitter after all that? And then, the average never has buoyed way up to where you can like count on it, but 240 flipped from like the upside to the expectation, and then he pops off for a 280 year, and it's like that could be a path. And
like he definitely has more raw power than Profar, although Profar did have 220 homer seasons in 2018, but that was
he's got a leg up on the
more
speed.
Yeah,
for sure. So anyway, it's an interesting name just because we gotta talk about them all. Anybody else in the bat speed group you wanted to hit on, or are we good to move on?
No, I think we're good to move on.
Okay, well, we're going to take our first ad break, and we got one more. It's going to be Barrell percent, but we're going to take an ad break. We'll be right back after this. Okay, so Steve, moving along here, and we'll just do the quick toggle on the year-to-year leaderboard. And yeah, I'm just scanning here. God, man, anytime I see Brendan Rodgers on these lists, and I've seen him on multiple,
dude, how many times
it makes me think of us being
this? Yeah, we does he like pay to get his name on these lists? Like we've done this exact show so many times, and Brendan Rodgers' name has come up.
all we have to do is
Dude, like
say we
we were
give up,
suckers
and
because
he's
like
gonna go off.
and like we were saying like, oh, it's Colorado, like you got to give him a chance. Like he has that extra shot because it's Colorado.
Uh-huh.
We'll look past things, and it was like,
And then
oh,
Houston, we were like,
Houston, like yeah, like they're giving him a shot. They're a good organization. That's a good ballpark, good lineup. And
he's number
yeah, well,
2
who is he
on
going to
this
sign
list.
with? Who is he going to sign with this year that'll make us um, buy in again? I don't know who could that be that would be that interested. I don't know. I
Some
digress.
Yankees resurgence. I don't know. But then you
Yeah,
look, Volpe is 5th on this one on barrel
that's
percent.
smart. Yeah,
So again,
yeah,
interesting. And I mean, these are related stats. So you've got some similar names with PCA, Bryce Terang, um, Schwarber, who already had the high bar and grew even more. But some youngsters with like a Wyatt Langford is good to see for big picture. You talked about Neto earlier, who's 10th on this list, but the ones that you kind of flagged carry some different names we haven't talked about yet. One, George Springer, that we've been hyping all off season. But when you look at this overall name set, Steve, like who is grabbing your attention the most, and do you think that it's kind of changing how you view them going into next year?
I think I view them as legit. Like it backs up. It backs up like any hype with Springer. I know we talked about it a bunch since we took him in the mock draft. Like Michael Bush, PCA. I know that there was the extreme fall off in the second half, but I still think that there's now a 20 homer hitter in there that we did not think that was coming, right? Or even like a 25 homer hitter. I know he's
Mm-hmm.
like got there in what, like May or June, and like struggled to get close to 30 towards the end there. But yeah, basically this is a list of players that I'm buying. It's kind of like a combination of bat speed, max EV, and like the realization of it and like the actual perform. Like it's that's
Mm-hmm.
why we look at barrel rate to predict future performance, right? So that's kind of what I would take from this. And like guys like Varsho, like Varsho's really good when healthy. I know that's a big if, but he was healthy this year. Or when he came back from injury, he was healthy and looked really good doing so. And he's a player that I'm interested that I think may be slept on a bit. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's at ADP 200. That's probably the highest he's been in a bit. So
I,
that
I
there's some
got
hype there, but I'm still interested. Yeah.
I got an interesting one here. How about Harrison Bader at age 31 declines his option with the Phillies? We see his bat speed skyrocket from 38th percentile in the league up to 71st, and his barrel rate went from like a very like paltry 6% up to over 10%, and we see him pop off 17 homers with a 277 batting average. We know he's got speed. Depending on the landing spot, I mean, you talk about ADP, like he's going in the 360s, but on some of those deeper leagues, I think, I mean, obviously age is not on his side, but like when you're looking at a guy who's a speedster like that, it's just it's interesting when you put it all together, but I don't know that anything about his like underlying batted ball stuff looks like basically the 277. I don't think you can buy in there, but with how much he strikes out and everything, but he's just an interesting name to see on this what is it, top, where's Bader? Okay, top 30. So it's not way up there, but I think going from 6% to 10th percentile is
Yeah.
an interesting one.
Um, I was just quickly looking to see like, hey, like, is that just a result of the Phillies basically only playing him versus lefties and like exploiting him and playing him in only like favorable matchups? But really wasn't the case. Like he had 11 homers, hit 300 versus righties this year, and 307 plate appearances, and really wasn't that good versus lefties. And like Bader gets in like because he's a good fielder, right? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
where he comes in first. So yeah, I was initially I was like, oh, this must just be like they played him in, like kind of how they do with like Brandon Marsh, right? Like
Right.
Marsh like only sees righties, will see like the easiest of lefties, and like, have his 17 homers and his 17 homers and 450 plate appearances, but like, it's capped because he just can't hit lefties, and the Phillies do a good job um, making sure that's the case. That doesn't look like that was the case here with Bader. So, and even in 2024, he did better versus righties too. Hit 253 with 7 homers versus them as well. So,
all depends on where he
interesting,
lands and
All
everything.
depends where he lands, but like definitely like someone that's probably should be on your radar for your 4th, 5th outfielders for sure.
Yeah,
And
and
he's
at
probably
least
his ADP is probably super low right now because he doesn't have a team. Yeah, 363. So right around like Zach McKinstry and Cedric Mullins. So give me Bader over both those guys for now.
Yeah. All right, let's pivot to pitching, which is always an exciting one. The 3 that we're looking at here are fastball velo, stuff plus, and K minus BB. But to start with fastball velo, again, this was one that kind of Mike profiled, and it was the phenomenon that most of them hit, and it led to more strikeouts, which is kind of the no duh. The ones that are adding velo always usually means that you're counting on better results, but the good ones hit, and then the ones that were down didn't exactly lead to like bust seasons across the board. But Steve, talk to me about some of these names. These are kind of the who's who of pitching breakouts in a way this season. So this will be fun talking about all these pitchers.
Yeah. I mean, the 2 Hunters, Hunter Green, Hunter Brown, those jump off the page, right? Hunter, like, it's amazing that Hunter Green started throwing harder, right? Like, went from 96.7 to 99, 99.5 throughout the year. You would have thought like, okay, maybe he just needs to take a little bit off, and like that's how he could finally, put everything together and turn that raw stuff into results. In fact, it was the opposite. It was just, hey, let everything go, and you'll be an ace. I know that did come at the expense and only throwing 107 innings this year, so maybe that's the case. But I mean, he built on what was pretty much a breakout in 2024, where he had 150 innings of 27% strikeout rate, 9% walk rate, in 107 innings this year, 31.4% strikeout rate, 6.2 walk rate. Like that's Cy Young stuff. If he pitches a full season, that's just still a big question mark. And that's sort of the flip side of this list, right? Like, is this list a breakout list, or is this list a list of guys that are going to get hurt next year?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I
Right?
guess
Like,
there
you could
are.
always play that game where it's like, go to last year's velocity readers and see who's on the IL. Like, this year it was, Grayson Rodriguez, Sandy Alcantara, Garrett Cole, all that sort of good stuff. Or not good stuff, but ominous stuff in a way,
Right.
right? So,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah, and I
it's
think like Luzardo is one that when you look at the strides he made, it was just a complete rebound to uh I guess when you look at the sub 4 ERA, but 216 strikeouts, he threw 183 innings. The velocity was
dude, and
up.
he had those like 2 or 3 starts where he gave like 11 runs. Like, other than that, he
Oh,
was
that's right.
phenomenal
Yeah,
basically
lights
all
out.
year, right? Where he was tipping
Yeah.
pitches for a little bit. It seemed like.
hmm But yeah, if you look at he's a guy who's had elbow tightness,
Yeah.
forearm strain. So
And
that's
also a
a
guy
very good point.
that's his performance is so greatly correlated with his velocity, right? Like, if you pull up um for Lazard, I could try and do it while we ramble here, but like a graph with his velocity and NERA, it's probably extremely, extremely correlated. I'll try and pull
hmm
that up as we talk here,
Well,
but
yeah. I mean, in 2023, he was at 96.7 on the fastball, and this year he's at 96.5, and those were his good seasons. Last year he was 95.2 and that was the season he had a 5 ERA. Granted, it was a shorter sample before injury and everything, but yeah, I mean, he lives on that, and he doesn't get great extension, so it's like he needs every tick that he can get in the upper 90s. But yeah, when you look at this list, I guess the other two names, I looked at it as Matthew Boyd, who was kind of this found money in terms of production with the ratios. I know he wasn't a huge strikeout guy, but he was definitely like one of the value picks of the season, and his velocity climbed up from 92 to 93 and change. So he's high up on this list. But the two that kind of are the conundrums for all managers are Jack Leiter and Max Meyer. And those are ones that you just look at what they could be, and it gets you kind of like, how many times have we fallen into that trap, right? And if you look at ADP right now, you got Leiter at 255, you got Meyer. Oh, he's way down. So is Meyer out?
I guess I haven't seen any news there as far as what that is. Same with Hunter Green. That's something
hip
that
surgery.
I
So
don't
it's
have
early on that
updates
stuff.
on either of them, but I'm sure
Yeah.
if they come into spring training and are healthy, like those prices will go up, especially if like a guy with Max Meyer that had all this hype in the offseason and performed well until he got hurt. If he does have a healthy spring. But yeah, here's Luzardo's fastball velocity and ERA plotted against each other. It's just you see it. ERA is down when fastball velocity is up. When fastball velocity is up, ERA or is down, fast ERA is up. It's crazy how closely correlated that is. Yeah.
Nice. That's a nice little chart there, Steve, on the fly. Well done. Yeah, it's just zigzagging the entire way. Well, moving over to Stuff Plus, I think this was what was in my head when I was saying like the breakout who's who, because Christopher Sanchez, who I think went off as like SP6 in our mock draft,
Yeah.
was phenomenal. And where does he land on this? Like, he's super high.
One, I think he was one, or he was up there. KMSBB his one. Spoiler alert, but yeah,
okay,
he's up there.
Yeah. So when you look at the Stuff Plus guys, these are more of the same. Like you have both of your hunters. Like you said, we've got Christopher Sanchez as a total stud. Some other ones, Freddie Peralta, Tarek Skubal on the list. And then some kind of head scratchers there with like Kyle Freeland, Taiwan Walker. Yeah. And then the ones that were the fallers didn't necessarily have complete meltdown like a Corbin Burns comes to mind. But then you have guys like Aaron Nola. So like more than anything for these pitching ones, Steve, is to me, I'm thinking about like for Fab, and I know we always talk about like the value of those early season Fab moves can impact for the rest of the year. So it's worth more. But I also think it's just like a valid indicator that what you see early on is more often than not an indicator of what you're going to see the rest of the way when it comes to some of these like underlying metrics. So I think honestly, my takeaway on almost all this stuff is like doubling down. And I know we talk about like overreactions after like the first week, but once you get to like the first month, I think I'm going to be more aggressive next year on whatever those shooting stars are, because it could just
as far as what
the
like
whole
stuff
year.
as far as like okay, this guy's numbers by Stuff Plus sort of thing, or
Yeah, Stuff Plus. I think K minus BB, but I think on the hitting side, like Max EV, some of those guys, like even if it's like, I guess I'm saying, you remember where we were at with like Kyle Manzardo, and then he was up and down. I think that's the bet that's worth taking, because sometimes those turn into, I don't know, like Nick Kurtz and stuff that just can
And
change
I mean,
your
even
outlook wholesale.
Manzardo like ended up being, but he had 27 homers, right? You know, a
Right, just a
768
super
OPI, like, you
platoon.
know, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
like
Manzardo,
if you, I know the runs total is just laughably low. That had a hurt his 5x5 value, 47 runs, 27 homers, 47 runs. You know, that's as close as that's really like it's one of those lines where it's kind of as close as you can get. His own teammates only drove him in 20 times. That's crazy,
that
and
is
that
nuts.
also probably does have to do with him being a platoon, right?
Mhm.
You know, get pitch run for things like that, and also, you know, not really having a great defensive value, right? If you double in the eighth, like they're gonna replace you, so that accounts for some of that. But still, to be driven in just 20 times in 142 games is crazy.
That's
Um,
unbelievable.
so yeah, long story short, hey, you know, that process ended up being fine. Like, you know, Manzardo was worth rostering all year long in your 15 teamers, things like that.
Yep, yep. Um, all right, do we wanna hit on anything else here, or are we moving to, K minus BB?
No, no, I think we can move on.
Okay, so K minus BB, um, looking at this year over year, you've got Hunter Green is 3, Christopher Sanchez is 4. Uh, Cole Reagans and Sean Manaea were 1 and 2 there. And then Logan Webb on this list.
What do you have as your minimum innings pitch for both seasons? That's a really
I've got
solid list here.
150.
Yeah, I got 150 for both. What about your current season? Do you have 150 as well, or no?
I've just got 150 in the one box. Maybe I'm missing the
Yeah, because Sanchez is my
oh, I
number
see, I
one.
see, I see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to sort of
There
look
we
at
go.
that
Yep. No, no,
apples
no,
to
no.
apples,
You got
right?
it. You got it.
Yeah.
Sanchez number 1, Logan Webb number 2, Hunter Brown number 3. Okay. So this is yeah, just scanning this one. There's some interesting names here for sure. I think
I could
some of
pull
the
this
some of
up
the ones
here.
you throw out are like, oh, Chris Bassett is on here. He got us so excited early on. But yeah, from your list, Steve, who do you want to kind of zoom in on that we haven't talked about yet? Webb is in.
Yeah, I mean, I know you kind of hit on him, but Christopher Sanchez is just his rise to acedom essentially is caught me by surprise. I don't know. I know we talked about him a bit on the draft show, right? Because of the fact that he um went so high in the mock draft, but I know you've been a fan of him.
Mhm.
I guess I don't know why this is definitely a blind spot in my game, sort of these lefties with the change ups, but everything else about Sanchez too just sort of took off and enhanced, right? And he made himself better. Like, I don't know why I wasn't more in on it, right? I know the jump and swing strike rate was impressive. I guess I was sort of, I guess, thrown off by the 20% strikeout rate, right? I didn't see where there could be that room for improvement, and the jump to 26% when you throw 200 innings. That's how you become an ace, right? I guess what, like, was there
The
velocity?
ch-
Was there a pitch change? What was there usage change? Like, what led to that? You know, he was a
yeah.
great pitcher. Don't get me wrong, and
So the
you know,
velocity
even last
ticked
year,
up.
right? The 124 whip, I guess, is also kind of something that threw me off there a little bit as
So
far as not being fully in.
the reason I was so pumped in spring, I almost can't take a full proper victory lap for it, but the reason I was targeting him so much is his velo was up from like
Got it.
94.5 to
Yeah.
like 97. And then he was also throwing the cutter more, that he had like barely, it was like barely a show me pitch in 2024. And so it was kind of like, oh, he's completely redefined. And that's how I thought he was going to get to a 30% K rate, or just be way up there. And then I remember rostering him. It started out as just like good and good results, but not how we wanted to see it. Like I was like religiously looking at Nick's like roundups to see like, okay, did he do what we were hoping for? And honestly, he kind of did not.
Yeah, he didn't throw the cutter much, right?
Yeah, he didn't. He moved away from it like altogether. But the 1 mile per hour jump was enough for
And
his
that was across
fast.
all of his pitches, basically. His changeup went from
That's right.
85.1 to 86.3. His slider went from 84.4 to 85.7. His sinker went from 94.5 to 95.4. So
But
basically gained a tick on all of his pitches.
he did. But I think if you just look at like what happened from a results standpoint, his changeup got a ton more whiffs. And I think the it looks like it's more of just dialed in on location for the entire year. Like his changeup and his sinker were like sat right on top of each other, which probably just threw people off with like the off speed. But yeah, I'm for him being the number 6 pitcher off the board, I do think you kind of look at it and you're like, all right, well, he doesn't get above average whiffs with the slider. I mean, he's a great ground ball pitcher with elite extension. Like I'm not knocking a guy that was my best pitcher the entire year, but it is just an interesting one for how much he rose, and he didn't like completely revolutionize how he pitches. It was just like he did everything a little bit better and threw a little bit faster. I don't know. It just doesn't like scream by to me the way that when Logan Gilbert, sprouted one of the best sliders to go with his great fastball. It's like, oh, well, that's a formula to be an ace. Sanchez is just like a slightly better version of who he's been for a long time and through 200 innings. I don't know.
If you look at the location plots on Pitcher List, Savant, wherever, like if you look at 2025 compared to 2024, in 2024, the changeup location plot, there was a really large red zone as far as where the pitches went most often. There was, probably 40%, 50% of it like in the zone. And then in 2025, there was just a tight dot on the corner of the zone for the changeup as far as where he just was dialed in on that location. Same with the sinker too. Like it catches the plate, but I mean, a sinker is a pitch to contact pitch, and it is right on top of where that changeup goes. So definitely a great call there to acknowledge that he was dialed in on his location. And honestly, for me, that's something that's, if that is the main cause, I mean, there may be,
How sticky is
that's what I think. Like that's exactly where my mind goes. Is like how often is that repeatable when you're just getting by on being dialed in on location? But hey, Framber Valdez kind of does it right in his own sense. Like is and I don't think I've ever had a share of Framber Valdez. And maybe Christopher Sanchez is that new one.
Yeah. I mean, the changeup is excellent, and like Valdez had like the curve coming in and out. So the pitcher, he's now going 9th in ADP, so a little bit later than 6th. So the guys that kind of jumped him are,
as far as pitchers go, right? Okay.
Yes. So Hunter Brown is swap places with him. I think Hunter Brown is like 9th in our. Yep. And then Logan Gilbert is 7th. Chris Sale is 8th. And then the first starting pitcher after Sanchez is Jacob deGrom. And then it's a bit of a gap until Hunter Green.
Yeah.
And then Woo, which we got late. So that was a good pick for us. Yeah, there is kind of a little bit of a tier. I mean, deGrom is interesting. I don't know. What do you think, deGrom or Sanchez? Like, what would you do there?
I don't know. Like,
I think I lean Sanchez.
Like,
on that.
And as I step back from like deGrom's year, obviously
I rostered him too,
and he got 172 innings, and
he wasn't Superman though.
Yeah, I'm almost like like if you would have told me in the beginning of the year that DeGrom was going to throw 172 innings, I would have been ecstatic.
Hmm.
I don't know if I was ecstatic that DeGrom. I know like by the numbers he was, whatever, the third best starting pitcher, fourth best starting pitcher, the .92 WHIP. Like,
He only had one double-digit strikeout game.
yeah, like he was
That's
great
crazy.
for me. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't. I almost would have rather take the 92 innings and 45% strikeout rate from 2021, right?
Yeah, that
I
is
almost would have rather
insane.
taken the 64 innings from 2022 in a weird
Uh-huh.
way.
Is there
Um,
anything about like in a bizarre 38-year-old way for DeGrom that like he was
like you
just
see,
focused on
you
health
see,
and now he's gonna turn on the burners and
maybe,
you know what
maybe.
I mean? He was just trying to like get through a health
I
his
was kind of
focus
waiting
was
for it all year,
durability.
right? Like,
Me
you
too.
know,
Me
um,
too.
I mean, there was an IL stint, right? He only threw 172 innings, right?
Yeah, I think I would have remembered panicking. Yeah, there
yeah,
was no IL stint.
no IL stint. It was
Um,
just how they managed his innings, right?
hmm. That's
Yeah,
an interesting one on Sanchez or DeGrom. I think even with everything we said, I think I'm leaning Sanchez just because it really feels like he's still on the ascent, even if he takes a step back from
and
what we
the
saw last
innings are
year.
just more like you kind of like a year ago. I would have said the Grom just based on the upside, and like we kind of saw, like this is the upside, and like it's not like Sanchez was Sanchez better than Degrom this year?
Yeah,
Yeah, I wonder what the player rater says. But like you can't dream on that upside if it's just you know 110 strikeout game, right? If it's a 27% strikeout rate from Degrom, not a 35, right?
right. Yeah, it
Uh,
is.
let's
It's
see,
kind of the
fantasy
Logan
player
Webb thing.
rater. Um, Those are just pitchers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
DeGrom had him
Sanchez
on the
was
Webb.
6th. DeGrom was 12th. Yep. So DeGrom was $23.60. Sanchez was $25.06. So $2 more, $2 more than
Yeah,
your standard 12 team 5x5.
yeah. I think the weird part about Sanchez, as good as everything was, is you almost have to, at least in my head, you have to account for him taking a step back. Like, I don't think you can predict he's going to be better than a 2.5 ERA, a 106 whip, and 212 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Not unless he does something that gets us excited again, like the cutter or the slider's no longer just mediocre. It's actually a weapon. Like if he changes his slider and it's all over the headlines in spring. But yeah, that's uh, it's kind of a damning realization that that's like SP 9 and 10, and we're over here looking at Sanchez and Degrom, and we're like, I don't know, I don't know if I feel amazing about it. Like maybe you know, like 10 picks sooner is Yamamoto, or you wait 20 picks and get
Yeah.
Logan Webb.
Yeah.
Like what's Logan Webb compared to Sanchez? I don't know. I think I'm just forming opinions on the fly, which is what we're doing this offseason. Back to the rundown, though, Steve, on K minus BB. Are there any other names here that really jump out that you want to hit on either on the rundown or from the year over year?
Mackenzie Gore. I know the second half, and that's been a trend with him, and the overall numbers don't look good, but he did improve his strikeout rate by 3%. The walk rate went up half a tick, but there's some interesting things there. And if he can keep the velocity and stay healthy, like he's done it for half a season, maybe he can do it for a full season. And I know his name has been out there in trade talks. Like who knows? Think about his draft price if Astros acquire Mackenzie Gore, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You'd
that
forget
would
all about
be
that second half in for very, very quickly.
First half of 3.02 ERA. The 120 whip was kind of a
Yeah, an indicator. And the
suspicion.
whip is always a
Yeah.
bit high with Gore. It's
That
always a
post
little high.
All-Star break is 6.75 ERA. Man,
Ooh.
what a
Yeah, he was
meltdown.
not rosterable after being essentially an ace.
That is wild, dude. He had, I mean, the walk rate ballooned for sure.
His 135 whip this year was the best of his career. Crazy.
Stat of the day. That is nuts. But yeah, I mean, 27% K rate, sub 10 walk rate.
Yeah.
Without looking, if you don't have it in front of you, Mackenzie Gore's age.
27.
26.
Right, nice. I still overshot it. Yeah.
He'll be
27 in February. Yeah, I get partial credit for that.
He's one of the ones. Maybe it's just because we knew him so young. Like
we
were kind of
a gigantic prospect, part of the Soto trade, right? Like,
right.
Just been around forever.
And yet we've only seen 4 seasons of Mackenzie Gore. Like he's kind of a Giolito candidate. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's never going to happen. And then if it happened, it'd just be like, oh, yeah, Gore's turning a corner. So yeah, I think it's.
I mean, but talk about
reminder.
how many 10 strikeout games did Mackenzie Gore have this year?
He had more 13 strikeout games than DeGrom had 10 strikeout games.
3 of them, a bunch of 9s trickled in there though too.
Yeah, Gore is definitely he's a game logger that when it's working, it gets you super pumped. Yeah, because last year he had a couple, I think like 3 double-digit strikeout games too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, good looking at this again. We'll link everything out, but shout out to Mike and the awesome work he does over there. They're fun things to look at, and it's good formulating early opinions here with you, Steve. I think hitters, some good discussions there with Vinny P, with Josh Naylor, much higher up with Corbin Carroll, and then looking at the pitchers, I think there's interesting takeaways. But I've kind of changed my stance a little bit on Sanchez in real time. So good discussion. I think the Hunters goes without saying that, like, if health is there, those are Cy Young candidates. But fun show, man. Any closing thoughts? Otherwise, I hope the holiday break is great for you guys.
Same here, man. Same here. Good getting back in the groove.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll be every other week until we get closer sometime in February. We'll switch to weekly, but feel free to reach out if you guys have any thoughts, topics you guys want to hit on. We are happy to roll them in. Until then, episode 198. Thanks for talking baseball with us.
Thanks, guys. Later.